Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Oh, man. You're a little under the weather, huh?
I gotta say, I still haven't officially gotten COVID yet, but in the last 4 months, I've gotten every fucking other thing.
Oh, wow. I was like, have you not gotten COVID because you are not testing for COVID? Or
No, no, no. I've had a cotton swab up my nose more days than not.
oh, oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Hundreds
Gotcha.
of dollars in COVID tests.
Oh my God. We actually stopped buying them because I'm like, I can't spend $25 every time I have a stuffy nose, and even if I were
Yeah.
to test positive, what am I going to do? Like, I don't really leave
Yeah,
the house
and
anyway.
and that's the thing, right? I mean, if you're relatively healthy, these newer mutations are much less aggressive. They just kind of you just kind of feel like crap for a couple of days, which is a hell of a lot better than, death. So I guess
Well,
I'll take
even
it.
yeah, I mean, but even so, like, let's say it was the old school COVID, right? Like
What
the
what are you gonna
the
do?
OG
Yeah.
COVID. Like, what are you going to do? Everyone's back at work. Like, everyone's out and about. My
And
kids are
then you
in
just look
school.
weird, right? They're
Right.
like, oh, you're the one that's gonna die from this.
Well, my kids are in school and they're not
Yeah.
wearing masks, so that means
Yeah.
everybody literally that has a kid is doing whatever they're doing. I couldn't. I mean, just there's not a whole hell of a lot that you can do about it. It's at this point. So
Yeah. It's and that's the crazy thing. I mean, my mother-in-law came to town, and somehow she came down with COVID, right? So basically we turned our house into a COVID ward.
yeah,
And no one, all of us were testing every day. None of us ever had it. Great. But, then the kids go to school and the school's rule is like, well, if you have somebody in the house that has it, I guess you got to wear a mask.
yeah.
For how long? 5 days? Does that
Yeah.
5 days seem fair? Are
Would
you going
you
to push
be
back?
okay? Would you
Would you?
be okay with five
Yeah, no,
days?
this is a hard and fast rule. Like maybe what, until Friday? What is
Yeah,
it, Monday? Like, how about till Friday?
right. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, look, officially, I don't think I've had COVID either, but I haven't tested in a bit. So
I'm glad to have missed that boat. There was no FOMO there. But let me tell you, new flu. Oh, that sucked.
yeah, yeah.
New flu
See,
took me down.
and it's funny because like when I look at when I heard somebody sick and I was like, oh, you got COVID. They're like, no, I tested negative. I was like, and it's the running joke. Oh, I forgot. There's other diseases. Like it's like
Yeah,
I you know.
it's. I forgot who it was, and this is kind of like, of course, like in the back of my head, I didn't say anything, but somebody goes, oh, so and so just died, and this was in the throes of COVID, and I'm like, oh shit, COVID got another one. They're like, no, horrible car accident.
Yeah.
I was like,
Right.
oh, what were
Right.
they doing out?
Yeah. Oh
It's
my
like,
God. What do you,
why were they
car
out of their
accident?
house?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Car
it's like
accident.
people
Yeah.
don't die from that.
No, you can't get run over by a car. What the hell? Like,
you know,
oh man. Yeah, no, I mean, it sucks that you're sick though. I mean, geez.
what are you gonna do? It could have been so much worse, and it's funny. I feel like I'm kind of back to the, if it's not knocking me down, I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all right. Look, I'm gonna wear the mask. Oh, are we back in masks at the office? No, they're still optional.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
don't want what I'm selling today.
Yeah, you don't want what I'm selling today. Exactly. And it's funny because I mean, they asked me if I was gonna. I got on a plane recently, and somebody asked me, "Are you gonna wear a mask on the plane?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I guess a KN95 offers you a little bit more,
Yeah, yeah.
but like mostly the mask thing is only if these people are courteous enough to not want me to get what they have, which has not been my experience with humans."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's always the person with like snot dripping down their nose and like all over their sleeves. That's like, hey, I'm gonna sit right next to you.
Yeah, like I mean, I
Let
don't
me
know.
let me look at you real close while we're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, right. Any way you could get closer. Hey, let
Mm,
me ask you. We touched on this before, but like we finished this conversation here. Is
yeah,
what do you think of these salt inhalers? I know that like like by itself,
Yeah.
halotherapy or halotherapy, I think, like that, sitting in the salt. I mean, you have one at your place, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
we got a great one.
the,
People love it, you know.
yeah, I've sat in yours before. Yeah. And the whole idea, I guess, is what you're inhaling salt and it's killing what's in your lungs, right?
Yeah, well, it's doing a few things, right? So it's pulling fluid out of the mucous membrane. So when they're inflamed, they're going to make more mucus. It'll dry out mucus because of the same thing, right? It's pulling water out of that. So, and then certain bacteria, I wouldn't say viruses so much, but certain bacteria have water in them, and when the salt hits that, it'll dry them out and kill them.
Wow.
So it's gonna kill stuff that's local to that tissue. It's not gonna kill everything.
Sure. It's not gonna, get
it's not gonna get systemic. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and certainly, I've had salt inhalers at home before too, which I think are kind of. I'm mixed on those.
So a friend of mine suggested, and I'm not sick or anything, but he was getting sick, or he felt he was getting sick. So he puts a couple drops of that Lugol's iodine, and just puts it, I guess, I'm assuming, right into the salt, and just uses it as a sort of a viral bacterial.
Is that a dry salt one, or is
it
that
is a dry salt one?
Yeah.
I mean, the one I was looking on Amazon. I mean, it's funny because they're like $11. Like they're,
and I mean, like they're fancy
cheap
ceramic ones, and they got chunks of salt in them, and
no, this is like a fat thermometer that you suck.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's
we got to breathe with it,
Yeah.
It's funny. I was looking into like, oh look, I might as well brand and import products that kind of mirror some of the services I have, and I was looking at bringing in one that literally, it didn't really look like a bong. Mm-hmm. It looked like a vaporizer a little bit more. It was ceramic and round, and then had like a mouthpiece that came.
Yeah, that's probably the one I'm looking at.
And then they had filters on the bottom, not filters, but airways on the bottom. So when you suck in, you get the air passing through the salt, right? The only problem with that for me is like, one, you're not inhaling it through your nose then, right? So this whole part is discredited. Correct. And then the other thing is like, they're like, breathe through this for 30 minutes. It's like, you want me to breathe through a fucking tube for 30 minutes?
Right.
And it's maybe if you gave me a mask, like if I had, like a CPAP machine or something, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the friend who suggested it to me, I mean, he will use it like, he'll rip it like a bong hit, right? It'll just be like,
I can see that being a little bit better. I mean, the one I had chunks of Himalayan sea salt in it. And I'm like, unless I shake this first and get some dust going, what am I really getting out of it?
Sure. And that with the halotherapy things, like you're actually atomizing the salt, right? Like
it's not fully atomizing, but what happens is, I mean, I love my equipment. It's so like futuristic looking, and it does some really cool things to your physiology. But like the salt therapy, it literally is a salt mill. So it just grinds the salt into a powder, and then there's a fan. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's just like, what does it do? Oh, it takes like really fine salt, makes it a little finer, and then kicks it into the air around you.
Wow, that's crazy. Now here, let me ask you something. Could I take a halo generator and drill it into the side of my infrared sauna and make a little?
You most certainly can. I almost bought one that already did that.
Yeah, but I didn't buy that. So can I retrofit this thing?
If you search halo generators, I'm sure you can find one. Especially if the sauna I have has like 4 ports. There's 2 above that are like it's the cedar wood. But around that, there's a couple of ports that like have little ways to put things in.
Yeah, they're
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's what you can use. I'm pretty sure you can use that as the way to hook the halo generator.
Yeah, these things are on Amazon. These things are spendy. This one's $795.
Believe me, man, if I told you what I paid for my salt pod, you'd be like, oh, you dumbass.
Well, no, but I'm just saying this is like a desktop halo generator, and it looks like it sits on like your nightstand and just puffs.
Probably just puff salt in your face all night.
No, it's like literally on your nightstand. You just throws it. Yeah, no, I mean, and it's $800. I mean, that ain't cheap.
No, but like honestly, I really feel like a lot of these technologies at some point, and we've talked about this before, it's not going to be the guy that's selling them for $1,000. It's going to be the guy that decides to sell them for 40 and sells 1 million of them.
Yeah. Well, this one is this is a humidifier halo generator. That's
Oh,
interesting.
that's interesting.
That's also $800. So I'm wondering, with the cedar sauna, do you think you can put the halo generator in there and then not have to worry about like scale buildup or something inside the wood?
I mean, like, I
Because
think.
your salt machines, you could wipe it down with a paper towel. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a fiberglass, like,
Yeah.
super smooth body. And what we do is I hate to say it, like, I'll pull that halo generator, like the brains of the kit out. It's kind of like under where you sit, and take a shop vac and put it, because they have these tubes that come up behind you and blow that salt in front of your face.
Sure. Oh,
right.
gotcha.
So I can put a shop vac into the tubes down below, shop vac all the salt that's just laying there. Of course, my kid was in it a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, why is there salt all over the floor? Why is there, why? Oh, did you play with it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't touch it at all. So the 60-year-old woman that used this before you, she's the one that dumped it?
Yeah.
Yep, was her.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
I don't think she can fit down there, honey. No, wasn't me.
It's funny though. Like $800 is expensive. Let's call that as it is.
Yeah.
Right? But what it also is affordable if you were really into this and you wanted to do it. Like if you wanted to do it, right?
Yeah.
And like now, I guess it's sort of the equivalent of your home infrared sauna. That's like a blow up tent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
I can show it to you right here.
Like it's not exactly like, it's not like getting a regular infrared sauna.
Well, you're not going to have friends over and be like, look at my sauna. You know what I'm saying? It's not like part of the home spa.
Yeah. It's not part of the home spa. Yeah. So
it's
I guess
utilitarian.
So like you wouldn't
utilitarian.
be making, utilitarian, but like I've got, limited space, as I suspect most people do.
Yeah.
And for me, I can get a halo generator that's like this big, like, like a foot tall by like 6 inches round. And I could bolt it to the side of this thing and put a tube through it and blow a bunch of salt around in there and like really double down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have that footprint already dedicated to
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you've already got it. Like, so it's like, okay, well, $800 is a little crazy, but I mean, I'm already in for many pennies. Might as well be in for.
Well, that's the other thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you could call the company that you bought it from and be like, look, do you have a halo generator attachment?
Right.
They might have one now.
Yeah.
And I think I even looked at like a red and near infrared light with the infrared sauna, right? And it was a combination unit.
Yeah, they said don't do that.
Yeah, and that's what, I'm like, well, you're only supposed to have 20 minutes of that. If I'm going to sit in that sauna for an hour, does that time out on its own? And then what do I do? Do I sit there in the dark? Is it, like what happens?
Yeah, I looked at that too. And like they said, don't do that. It can really fuck with you. Like you're not supposed to be under the red light that long. Like the generators that we have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment. I did see an interesting study recently on the red light where they were showing it does actually improve vision.
So they said that in people over 40, and I'm over 40, so it was interesting to me, obviously.
Yeah.
I forget what it was called, not macular degeneration, but macular.
I'm going to pull it up too.
There was something about like your ability to see shadows and color and stuff, and like they were saying that it actually helps with that, which of course now, ever since I read that article, when I'm sitting in mine, I'm like, basically my eyes are like wide out.
It was for dry macular degeneration.
Oh,
so you have a wet and a dry version, and for the life of me, I've had a hard time recalling anything. So I know there's two different ones.
Sure.
One of them's wet. This is not it.
Gotcha. Well, the funny thing is now I'm like, look, even if it's wrong, I'm not in here long enough for it to matter. So like I open my eyes real wide and I put them like an inch away from the light, and I'm like,
oh geez.
Well, because like it actually, it does improve blood flow. Like there's a bunch of things that it'll do. So like, I mean,
look, I don't think it's going to hurt. There's so many other things that we probably do. Right. Yeah.
A, it's not going to hurt. And B, if it helps like a bunch of things. It's not just like one thing. So I'm like, fuck it. I don't care.
Well, we got to find, there was a weird documentary that was on about like, what do they call them? Breathanarians, the people that don't eat.
Breathanarian.
Right? It's a weird, freaky, like, oh, don't even be vegan, don't eat anything, just live off the sunlight.
Oh
Right?
yeah, they
And
sound like
I,
rational
you know,
people.
and they talk about it, and you know, a few of the biohackers and the researchers are starting to talk about, you know, early morning sunlight because of the red and the near infrared. But these breatharians, that would be like, you know, you get up and you start staring at the sun as it's rising and then as it's setting each day, and then you can increase that, and they're like, that powers you and you don't need to eat. And you know,
I mean,
batshit crazy,
right.
but
How
there
long do you
is
think that would-
something to that red light.
Well, no, listen, every crazy thing is backed by a morsel of truth, right? Like,
truth,
so like,
yeah.
I mean, it had to start somewhere, right? I mean, people didn't just make shit up, you know, like, I mean, you know, they might have made up other shit, but they didn't come
Everything
out of
around
nowhere,
it,
but
yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, no. But yeah, I don't know. These things are like, not like, I mean, we saw, recently, and we might be selling it on Head Shop, but this, I guess at home furniture grade cold thermogenesis tank. And it's like
Whoa.
carbon filtered, UV sterilized, recirculating, constant temperature, like 34 to 65 or something like that. And they're really expensive. And they're, you know, they're like $18,000.
So what is the use for that then?
Like an at-home plunge tank, essentially. But
okay. All right. So you throw me off because it's on Head Shop, and I was like,
well, yeah, because we got this whole thing.
Is that how you get the keef off the?
No. It's, you know, we got a whole section on sort of
wellness.
Biohacking stuff. Yeah,
That's cool. That's cool.
And so yeah, but like, so I'm looking at all this cool, neat stuff, but that tank in particular, I mean, I think it's great, but I've told you before, I am a cold wuss. Like the one weird hell thing I'm not sure I could do is cold dunk. I mean, I've done it a bunch, but it's miserable. like it's not something I could do daily, you know.
I'm also like, you know, I got to the point where I could do, and this is not me bragging, because I think, you know, the more you brag with this stuff, the dumber you are. But like the cold plunge is a completely different animal from the cryo.
Yeah,
I've gotten to the point where you know, negative 160 Celsius, I'm in there for 3 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
Well, you're not even shivering. No, I'm cold. You know, and they're like, but you're so calm, and you're like, look, maybe I froze the thing out.
Yeah.
But I get into the cold plunge, and I'm like, you know what? This is miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, can I make it? Yeah, sure, I can make it. Do I enjoy this? No. I get out, I feel a little rush, which I burnt that out from the cryo too. Like, I wasn't getting the endorphin rush from the cryo anymore.
Oh, interesting.
You know, and it's not like I was doing it daily.
I don't need the endorphin rush though. Like that's kind of why I do. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. Like when it comes to any of the cold stuff or even the red light stuff, I'm a little bit, I mean, I know a lot of the science behind it, but I'm kind of mostly operating on blind faith that this is going to do something, right? Like,
I gotcha.
There's so much evidence to support that it does, but like, honestly, it's an emerging field. So like, I think it would be naive to be like, we fully understand this, you know, like,
you know, but I mean, that's the thing, right? So
but it ain't going to hurt me.
Well, and it's so weird because there's starting to be this backlash on the cold plunge. At least what I've been seeing in the news, like they're trying to figure out how to make that the bad guy. And in my head, and this is when I get crazy conspiracy, Tom. I'm like, that's right. It's probably curing something.
Well,
it's probably curing something, and now you can't sell a drug.
See, now I'm on the other side of that. I actually think that given how absolutely piss poor our health is as a statistic, the chance of a cardiac event from a cold plunge is outrageously high.
It's more significant than doing the cryo.
Oh no, absolutely 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's got real absolute potential for death.
And I'm saying that without actual statistical numbers.
I don't have statistical numbers either, but I've run 7 Ironman and 2 of them had somebody die of a cardiac event in the water.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you,
And somebody probably in like prime health too, which is always
I don't
kind
know.
of crazy.
Well, I mean, they're doing an Ironman, so
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm saying they didn't
there's a
stop at
baseline
McDonald's
here,
the day
right?
before the race. And I'm not knocking people that eat McDonald's.
I mean, we
It's
could
food
make
shaming, and I don't do that.
yeah.
I'll shame you for other shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, they probably weren't super unhealthy people, but like, here's the funny thing, man. Like, I'm not like this, never got like this, but when I was, and I just was thinking it's time to get my toe back in this water, but up to COVID, I was doing an Ironman and at least 2 marathons a year, like every year. Right. And I'll be honest with you, you meet a lot of fucking kooky people doing those things. Like there's, like I never took it seriously, like to the sense that I was like, I live and breathe and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
You got the sticker on the back of your car?
I do. I do have a magnet on the back of my car.
The magnet.
Yeah,
sorry.
I can't commit to a sticker zone, But my point being is like, I don't know, like getting this bent out of shape about stuff, is a little bit crazy. But anyway, my point is when you jump into water that's super cold, in the first one, I don't know what the water temp was in the second one, but the first one, the water temp was like 31.
Jeez.
Like we're all in wetsuits, obviously, and that's helpful, but it's
still a wetsuit. It's still not. Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, take that back. It was 31 outside. It was like 50 something water, like low 50s.
Yeah.
So it's fucking cold. It's cold outside. It's fucking cold in the water. It's fucking cold, period. Like there's no relief from the cold. You're cold everywhere. And then, when it's 31 outside and you jump in water that's, I don't know, 50, 52, whatever, your feet are like
ice.
Instantaneously ice. You're like, oh man, this sucks. And so like, look, even though that dude they were both guys those dudes were in presumably decent shape. They jumped in and done.
Yeah.
I don't know that is normal in a lot of, red light therapy poses, I would say, close to, if not zero risk of a cardiac event, other than coincidentally happened while you were.
I happened to be standing there.
Yeah, right. When it happened.
And that's when it happened.
But there's no, like, you're not putting your body into a state of sudden, I don't know what the dysbiosis or what the right word is here for this, but you're like instantly missing, you're instantly phase shifting to something else, like instantaneously,
it's so weird, it's so weird that happens and how we're that subject to it.
Yeah. So these are kind of like at home things that we've been talking about, but I wanted to recently came across my orbit, if you will.
Yeah.
That a client of mine is going to be able to print human hearts. And like my brain kind of exploded. And well, first of all, that's not true. First of all, I was like, you're full of shit. That was the first thing. I was like, yeah, sure. And we're the last generation to die. We've heard all kinds of fun stuff. And then I dug it back and we kept going deeper. And as it turns out, this is probably a true story. And it's probably fucking one of the most incredible things I'd ever heard. Because, well, there's so many reasons why. Obviously, but perfect fodder for something to talk to you about. So,
yeah.
But let's just skip into the prelude here. I've got a heart disease. I've got and any flavor of heart disease. It doesn't congenital, acquired, whatever. And no big deal. Just gonna print another
swap
one.
This out.
And swap it out. And, I'm sure there's some nerves that have to go in there, but fundamentally the heart is just a pump and it's connected to hoses. And that's that.
Well, honestly, that's the crazy thing with this technology, right? If they can get the stem cells to differentiate the right way.
Correct.
You don't have to worry about the fibers in the septum conducting impulse, because they can print that. They can
Right.
print those, the progenkin fibers, I believe they're
So
called.
so here's the interesting question, right? Like, so for that, if you were, because at its core, that's what it's doing, right? It's telling a stem cell to kind of go a direction. So once it's chosen, we push it into the heart direction, right? And and now, does it sort of need additional stem cells to say,
to
we're the nervous?
more,
Well, now we're going to need some extra.
I do not know morphology well enough to even answer that, let alone
No,
that's a crazy question. How do you get, because we've seen images of like rats with human ears growing on the back of them, which is all kind of creepy and weird anyway.
Very creepy, very weird.
But like, what are you going to do? You're going to grow it on the backs of pigs? That'll be even grosser.
Yeah, right. Is there a less gross way to grow ears on?
Other human body parts off another animal? Like, how do we do that? Can we graft that on a horse?
Yeah, like, oh man.
But I'm wondering how it all works, because I think.
So to be
I don't
clear,
know how that differentiation works.
These hearts would be printed, like not grown per se. Right.
Yeah. So and therein lies the dilemma, right? How do you get the individual fibers?
But here's the thing, like, let's go back to the stem cell thing for a minute, right? Like, at a certain degree, there has to be genetics involved in this process, because you're going to need stem cells to start out with, for sure. Like that much you need.
And then they start to differentiate. But what is,
but I think if you print, like, and we could be way off here, but I mean, what if you printed the structure of the heart and then let the biology grow around it, kind of thing?
I'm wondering, because it's a weird question, right? So those cells differentiate based on epigenetics. So you might be right where you print the shape of it, those stem cells are naked, but then you give the patient's epigenetics to it somehow.
Right.
Basically reading the DNA script in the right tone and dialect and all that stuff.
So here's the question, right? So right now, the price of this is going to be about, they say $250,000, but I think more is probably going to be rational once this all comes out. Now, I think I know a bunch of people that wouldn't even consider this a problem. Not that it wouldn't bankrupt them possibly, or not, but the only thing separating me from a whole new lease on life is $250,000. I'll find it.
Well, look, Matt, because you said that, and immediately my head went to, I wonder how much a heart transplant costs.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking in some cases well over $1 million.
Is that true?
1.6 million before insurance.
Wow.
1.3 to 1.5 million.
Wow.
And welcome to the greatest country in the world.
Sure.
But you're saying replacing a heart is going to be a quarter of that. You're not going to have somebody waiting on a list, right? So they're not going to be taking up space in a hospital. Sure. The savings become exponential when you break it down into all the additional things. Is there going to be less heart medication, right?
So here's the thing. What there is absolutely less of, there's no anti-rejection drugs.
Because this is, so you're not on immunosuppression the rest of your life too,
right,
which is going to keep you healthier in the long run.
Right, which will give you 1 million benefits, right? Like, so so this is interesting, right? Okay, now none of this is here yet. Now, whatever the timeline is, some tradecraft here. I'm not, but the timeline is not forever away. And
no, it definitely is not.
But it's not tomorrow, right? Like, and so it's somewhere in between. But here's the thing. This same person said that the technology would work in all of your other organs except your brain. Like, it won't work in your brain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting one.
So, and we've talked about like upload and a bunch of others, before, right? But here's where we let's throw a pebble into the wacky pond here about this. Like, what is my motivation? Like, think about all the things this topples in our world, right? Diets, who gives a fuck? I don't care. I'll be 5 million pounds. It does not fucking matter because I'll just keep swapping shit out. Like it doesn't.
You just redo a whole new body
Right.
once you start putting on weight.
And well, I mean, I could smoke cigarettes if I can pop in a new lung whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
What's the difference? I mean, what if I was a guy with enough money where I just said, I'm going to keep smoking cigarettes and every 5 years, I'm just going to reprint new lungs and a new heart. You could literally just keep doing that shit forever.
Isn't it, and like
and here's
at
the thing,
one
the
point,
only thing that separates me in that point is money.
yeah,
So the only motivation here is cash. Like, and then I don't need to tell you this, but there's a bunch of people in this world that are not going to really like that.
no,
A whole hell of a lot. And here's the thing. I don't know. And this is going to sound horrible. So don't think I'm a complete douche just yet, but I don't know whether to condemn them or applaud them. Right. Like, because on the one side, it's absolutely awful. The separation between literal life and death becomes the number in your checking account. However, on the other side, like, the only reason that could exist, that technology can exist at all, is because of people's checkbooks.
mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like one of these weird questions, because you dip your toe into immortality, right? There's a bunch of reasons why that's not emphatically true, but you're dipping your toe into immortality, and but you're doing so at the expense of everybody who can't afford it. Like,
Yeah.
Does
how many movies? I mean, we always bring up movies like that. It's like,
they're all about
there's
that.
so many. I mean, Hunger Games in a roundabout way too.
Right, but even like that movie, what is it, Snowpiercer, about this rich class that drives a train around when the earth is frozen over, and all the slaves are in the back shoveling coal into this fucking thing, and then they eventually uprise and they move up cars, essentially, and the cars are stratified by your social caste. The closer you are to the front, the wealthier you are. It's like literally one of the main themes of writing.
Class struggle will always be a main theme.
Right. And so like, this is an interesting topic because they said their goal is to get it down to $20,000. Right. And so that's an admirable goal.
And look, even at 100,000,
well,
I would say insurance companies would swing at it, but 20,000 is amazing.
Yeah. So let's say they get it down to 20,000, right?
Yeah.
What this also means is that the dude who smoked 9 packs of cigarettes a day and 3/5 of Jim Beam, can just print himself new lungs and a new liver any fucking minute he wants. If they have health insurance, who's going to print it out? Now, the senator who could afford it now is probably, or if you go by statistics, is probably an alcoholic, maybe a drug addict, maybe both, definitely smokes cigarettes. Like, like you're going down the list of things they probably
definitely into some freaky shit he wants to ban.
Yeah, correct. Right. And so, like, does that person deserve it any less just because they happen to be richer? Fundamentally, they're the same personality, right? Like, they're not, they're not very different in that regard, but one has a ton of dough and the other one doesn't. And there you go.
Well, yeah, it's funny. Have you ever seen these things pop up on the internet where they're like, what is both a sign of being poor and a sign of wealth? And somebody's like being able to speak 2 languages. And it's like,
sure.
You're either an immigrant or you're wealthy enough to go to a school where you would learn a second language.
I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at it, actually.
But I mean, to your analogy with like, look, I got this smoker drinker who's like, we could say wasted his life. And yet I got this politician that's also doing it.
Yeah. Just
which one of them is not worthy of it because of the,
so
maybe they're both.
And so here's the thing. It's kind of like, okay, what happens when that is $20,000? You can basically extend the life of everybody on both sides of that equation in one version of reality for much, much longer. I mean,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I have absolutely nothing to back this up, but there would be absolutely nothing surprising that if that technology rolled out for heart, lung, kidney, liver, we'd pop over 100 instantaneously in average lifespans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like instantly. Like it would happen overnight, right? And 120, 130 would not be crazy. Like you know what I mean? Like, because I mean, your heart and your lungs slowly going downhill, and your liver, if you're a heavy drinker, going downhill. These are the things that cascade into other things, right? Like they move about your body, right? And it becomes a systemic failure, one cut at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you didn't have that, like the cascade wouldn't happen, right? If I replaced my liver with a 18-year-old liver every single time, and I did that every 2 years, and you wouldn't have to, you'd have to do it every 20 years. So, I mean, let's be honest.
Well, I'm wondering about the, how do I say this? Like, yeah, okay, the liver might be healthy, the heart may be healthy, but no one's replaced those arteries. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be other issues.
But what I'm saying is, like, arteries are it's PVC pipe compared, like it's dumb compared to everything else, right? Like,
but unless you can replace those as quickly, I put a new ticker in some shitty arteries. It's like throwing a giant pump on a hose that's made for
or a straw,
and now I've blown out the damn thing, right?
Sure.
So I'm wondering on the other end there, and this is kind of a bizarro twist there, but like if I ended up taking somebody who was prone for a stroke but also needed a heart transplant, would you have to somehow be able to fix the arteries before you drop that brand new Corvette engine in there, you know?
Interesting. Well, here's where the heart thing gets interesting, right? So the congenital defects of the heart.
Yeah.
What they're trying to figure out right now is, could we CRISPR out the congenital gene at the same time that we replace the heart with your own stem cells, thus making it a non-issue.
Fixing it, yeah.
And did you see that article of that woman? I think she was a teenager who got injected with a spliced version of her own genome to take sickle cell anemia out. I think it's cured her like that day, kind of thing. Because because the sickle cell, and I can't remember exactly, but I feel like it has something on the energy pathway. Like I feel like it makes you really tired.
So it was an adaptation. It was a really kind of clever mutation that kept people who got malaria in Africa from suffering. In
what way? How did it help?
So how does malaria work? It stops. Oh God. So yes, you lose oxygen, but you're not getting an infection that attacks the red blood cells.
Oh, I see.
So I feel like I'm getting this all wrong. Man, we should not. I should not be allowed to have a vape pen.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. They took her blood, they crisped out the mutation, and they put her blood back in, and it basically made it so that it went away, and so she felt better like pretty much immediately, because like the thing that was bogging her down was the thing, right? And if you made cells that didn't do that anymore, then they
would hold oxygen properly,
and then those just eventually took over as apoptosis kind of took its,
I think, what is it, 42 days,
right?
God, now I don't even remember.
Right. So as soon as those things die off, you've got basically like the right version of it, right? And that was mind blowing. And I know it's got a very narrow scope.
110 to 120, man. I'm sorry. I'm way off tonight.
Days?
Days.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, still 120 days later, that's 4 months.
You're new. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's what I'm saying. Like the Venn diagram of possibility starts to get a little freaky deaky here, right? Like, so I get a heart transplant. I'm on fucking no drugs for it. And, my arteries might be clogged up. Actually, I have a family member who had a heart attack at 37, and he's alive still. Then he
That's
had
good.
another heart attack 2 days later.
Jesus.
Yeah, still alive. And they pulled him apart, dug into him, like all this other stuff. And turns out he has a genetic mutation that basically makes cholesterol clogs out of non-food related issues.
Oh.
So he's got clogged arteries, has nothing whatsoever to do with his diet at all.
Yeah.
And so like that is pretty negatively affecting genetic mutation, because he's got to be on statins for the rest of his life, right? Like
I would agree with you.
right.
Not good.
And you know, living on statins the rest of your life has a bunch of shit you don't really want to be associated with, right?
Yeah.
Like, and weren't you talking to me about like all the crazy
Yeah,
shit?
so you get a lot of weird cramping because statins leach your body of CoQ10. So they block, as they're blocking cholesterol in the liver, they're also blocking the production of CoQ10, which is needed for, the Krebs cycle.
So I take
it helps make
CoQ10 every
cellular
day.
energy.
Is that could you counterbalance statin use by just
That's normally what people do, but they're even a little bit deficient in that, right? So CoQ10 at one point they're like, oh, it's only for heart health, but no, all muscle, all cells need that.
Sure.
So you'll associate it with keeping the heart healthy, but if you're taking statins and you get cramping in the legs, it's like one of the cheapest. Well, not the cheapest. CoQ10 is not the easiest to produce. But it's a non-prescriptive way of kind of tackling the cramping.
Oh, I gotcha. And it's funny, the CoQ10 I have is like a natural food, raw CoQ10. And I actually have been meaning to check out what the dosage of it is, because every once in a while, do you ever want to like check in on your supplements just to kind of make sure?
Every once in a while, I just put everything on. Like I'm not taking anything for like a week or two.
Well, I've done that. I just came off of that, but I actually have to look up what the latest science is on dosing for CoQ10, because I know that like, what was it like? I had a client once who used to do smoking cessation, and one of the things he did was like mega high dose alpha lipoic acid.
Yeah,
like 1,200 milligrams of alpha lipoic, like crazy fuck you dosage of it.
It's not cheap.
So that's not true, man. I got a bag of
really?
alpha lipoic acid powder from what's that supplement company that's got like it's a white label.
Bulk.
Yeah, bulk.
Oh, no.
Yeah, bulk.
Yeah.
Dude, it was like $30. Like it's nothing.
Maybe I'm wrong.
And a quarter teaspoon of this stuff was basically like half a day's dose that you'd put in like your morning. And I use it in my smoothies. I haven't made a smoothie in months because of this construction project, but like when I'm making smoothies, like it's one of the key. My smoothies have a very weird but specifically designed list of ingredients in it. I think we talked about it once, but yeah, alpha lipoic acid is cheap. But anyway, he said he used to blast people with ALA and CoQ10 to try to quit smoking, because while you were quitting, it just fucking infused your body with all the shit it needs to rapidly heal those things coming off of it. And I was like, well, I've been taking it for years, so I'll just keep doing that. But then I was like, well, maybe I don't know what the dosage is or should be, Hold on. I'm actually.
You got it right here.
Just realized it was sitting right next to me. I'm going to, all right. We got to find out now. I need to take a rabbit hole here.
Oh, wow. They're actually using it for quite a bunch of different conditions too.
Oh, really?
Diabetes to, I'm sorry, I just lost it.
Yeah, 200 milligrams is what I'm taking a day. I don't think that's very much, actually. That's pretty low. Hero dose.
Oh, wow. 600 to 1,800. That's not too bad.
So I'm only taking 200.
So you gotta triple
so that's
that
exactly
up.
why I wanted to look into it again.
So
because
rookie numbers.
Which is fine, yeah. Rookie numbers, yeah. Oh, it's funny. This one has a whole thing about statins.
Oh, the CoQ10.
Yeah, that's funny.
Or is that the alpha lipoic?
Yeah. No. This is the CoQ10. I was just, it's all there. You're right. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. So this is what I love about it. And you know what? It's funny. I don't think we've talked about this before, but you can get real complacent with this stuff, right? Like, I mean, I'll go deep dive into something like, when I got really into red light, right? I went obsessive compulsive, like checking out all kinds of different things. God's honest truth, I haven't looked up a single fucking thing on red light.
You satisfied the
because,
curiosity.
Like, I well, not just the curiosity, but I satisfied what I was looking like. I got the information out that I needed. I bought the equipment that corresponded with the information that did what I wanted it to do. And then I kept using it. Like, there was nothing left to do. It's like, kind of like, okay, well, I mean, I could still obsessively research red light.
Yeah, I mean, how
I'm
much
not really
more
sure why I would
is there to know too? It's like,
well, and also like, I mean, unless somebody says, by the way, we just found out that it kills you, which I think would have made CNN or like it would have been on the airwaves. Like, I don't think it's really critically important. Like, so, but every once in a while, especially with the supplements, because I take them every day. I don't do red light every day. I don't do sauna every day. Like, I mean, but supplements are daily. Like, if shit needs to be dialed in, it's good to kind of take a peek at that every once in a while. But like, so I know we've talked about this several times, but man, I think that so many questions that we have about health these days are going to come down to ethics and what does it mean to do what we can do, right? Because, and I think it's a topic that keeps making me interested in it, right? Like, what happens if the only people that could live to 200 are a bunch of rich douchebags?
That's probably
which is like, let's call it spade a spade. That's probably what's going to happen, right? Like, I mean, and we don't have to like that.
Well,
that's probably how it's going to go.
Yeah, all signs seem to be pointing that way.
And that movie with that movie Timeless that we were talking about, right? And even if you look at the Twilight series, right, you wonder how these vampires
generational wealth of
or
the vampires
lived in these nice houses. And he's like, well, if you lived 400 years, and that got me thinking that when you Venn diagram that on this, you're like, all right, well, if you did have, I mean, our idea of wealth accumulation happens in a scale of 80 years, give or take, right? Like, it's built on a formula that you're only going to live to 80. And I want X number of dollars to do X number of things. Like, okay, well, here's the formula. You live to 80 and we'll back into everything else, right? But if you live to 120, that's like increasing those numbers by what? 50%? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you're like, okay, so if you made it to $100 million, there's a huge fucking difference between 100 and 150 million. Like, I mean, I know some people say no, and I think I can see that argument, but still, you're making a lot more money, not just a little bit more money. Like, and so amplify that just 2 generations, right? Like, you don't even need to go very deep. And you've got a bunch of people like in the poorest rung of society that have gone through 5 generations, 6 generations in the time the elite class has gone through 2. Like, imagine the deleterious effects
over time. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing now, isn't it? And now you just add this exponential health growth to it, and the gap just gets, you're going to end up having to eat them. there's literally no other way. I mean, that plays out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does get it. I'm not sure
what I'm saying is, like, by the time they're living to 150, they got drones circling their house that'll kill you before you get any. You're not going to be able to just go up there with your rifle in hand and be like, we're gonna take care of this now. They're gonna own a whole militaries.
Yeah, right.
They already do, but
Oh, no, it's a whole military. Well, I mean, look, in that movie, they had like 1 million people walking around them at all times. You walked outside, you quite literally had 100 people
Yeah,
in a circle around you like a fucking cloud, because they're like,
another
the only
person.
thing that could take you out is a is another person. Like, there's nothing else, right? So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I hate, it's one of those things where
Yeah.
you just don't want to be right. But like the reality is like, it's cool to talk about this. And I think about this a lot. Like, I'm not in a super financial situation, but I'm comfortable and can
Yeah.
play with like an infrared sauna, which was not, I'm not necessarily
Well,
buying new
not right
heart
now, but
rolling,
I
like I
guarantee,
don't think
like,
that
if
would be
your
easy to do.
insurance didn't cover it and it was 100K, what do you could figure out a way to finance that.
I'm sure you could. But then this opens up all the things comes next. And this is where I was going, right? Great. You want to live for another 50 years and you can't afford it. Here's a 49% interest rate on a
Yeah.
fucking heart transplant. And look, we'll give you the cash tomorrow. Fucking done.
Oh yeah.
And
You're gonna hear
that's
stories of
definitely
them
going to
having
happen.
repoing
That.
organs.
Now you create, yeah, and now you've got a
Oh
whole fucking indentured servitude sort of
yeah.
model that's like baked into that whole nonsense. So great, I lived to 150, but I had to fucking bust rocks and
150.
pick up
Yeah, that's pretty
trash for
much what we're doing
fucking
now.
150. No, I know, but I'm just, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, all right, well, I mean, on the one hand, great, we're living longer. That's kind of fun. But if I had to finance my whole life, like mortgage my whole life away to do it, I know this all sounds crazy, but
They're
let's be
knocking on the
honest, like
door,
these
man.
things are like just as plausible as not. No,
Oh
yeah, they
man.
are. So anyway,
I'm
what are you up
I'm
to
just
these
trying to
days?
recover from this. Normally I kick stuff much quicker, so I think this weekend's gonna be a lot of sleeping. That's pretty much it, man. What do you got going
Yeah,
on?
dude,
Anything
I
new?
dig it. Yeah, I will not be doing that. I've officially called it.
Okay.
2023 is my research year. That's it. I'm calling it. I'm officially making it my research year. I think there is a tremendous opportunity that's about to be afforded to people who can figure out how to think really, really wide and stitch together a bunch
Mm,
of random tidbits from a bunch of different places. Because you know
yeah.
how that phrase, there's nothing new under the sun? That has never been less true than it is right now. Like we have, it should be changed to everything under the sun is new. Like we talked a
Yeah.
little while ago about the AI thing in 2023, right? Like this continues to just pummel us at an unimaginable rate. Like and so now basically the only rational way to approach this in my mind, right? And this is my crazy talking, is to just accept the fact that literally any dumb thing you think of is possible. The trick will be finding
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ingredients to make it plausible or producible. But there's literally no idea I have been able to think of in the last 60 days, let's call it, that I can't imagine how to actually get it done. Like there is a pathway for pretty much anything at this point. And like the list of things that gets in quote unquote impossible is so infinitesimally small at this point in time that you're like, well, let's stop even being curious about impossible. Let's just figure out what we want to do and let's just figure out a way to do it, right? And so I want to I'm taking some time to just kind of figure out like the winning formula here isn't necessarily stitching together certain
Uh-huh.
things, it's stitching together the formula, right? Like it's stitched together like, okay, well, how do you assimilate new technology into an output that you can make useful, right? And I'm not even necessarily saying commercially successful, but like there's a bunch of things that you can do that are
Hmm.
just plain interesting that might make zero money. but are just fun to do. And I have broadcast loud enough into the universe that I
That's
want to
pretty
meet people
cool.
like that I'm meeting a bunch of random people yeah. So I'm officially doing nothing, and I'm also doing everything. Like it's
Very
like
meta.
just taking it all in at the moment. It's very meta, yeah.
Oh, you
By
did?
the way, I did look at HR goggles today too. Those things.
We might have to back off
HR,
the vape pens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about that some other day. But I don't know. I'm feeling like I have to buy one, but I really don't want to.
I still
keep,
play
like,
with
looking at it and then
the
turning it
Trip
off.
VR meditation program. It's fun.
Oh yeah. Maybe we do one of these episodes in
And
VR
yeah,
goggles
we'll have to
in
set
like
up
a
one of those meta
meeting room somewhere. I mean, like,
things.
I know. I just kind of want to wait until meta's like done and it's not like a beta, so I can
It's
just be like,
just
can you just tell me where to go? I'll give
I
you
don't
my credit
I'm
card. Just like I'll give you my credit
yeah,
card. Tell
man.
me where to
Yeah.
go, and we'll meet there and have a good time. Like that. So,
This is great.
all right,
Let's
man.
talk soon.
As always,
Bye.
thank you. Take care. Bye.
What's going on, man?
Oh man, another day, another, everything.
One more unidentified flying object shot out of the sky.
Oh, it's so funny. I got an alert the other day. It was like 27 UFO sightings that are for the history books or something. And I was like, I want every DNA molecule in my body wants to click on this right now. But I know this will be 12 hours of my life.
And it's probably like 90 photos of bullshit.
Oh no, totally. And my favorite are those pages where it gives you like a sentence and then there's a next button and each page is one more sentence and you're like, okay, stop, I can't take it.
And it loads slow because it's so heavy with ads.
Yeah, totally.
It's like I can't even see the damn photo.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is because it's been 18 minutes and I've gone 3 pages into this experience.
Is this on dial-up?
Yeah. What in the hell is going on? It's hosted on a server in like Guam somewhere.
Yeah, I made a reference to anybody under 20 won't get.
Yeah.
Everybody over 40 can still make the modem noise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think did we have that conversation here about
we definitely did,
doing like the dings and the dongs and the everything like that and the chirps and just being like, oh, that was a 14.4,
Yeah.
Like
I just anytime I hear that noise, I think of free AOL
oh my God.
CDs.
Yeah. It's funny. I gave a little talk today to the Hopkins School, Carey School of Business at Hopkins.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
To graduate students, right? And it was basically like a professional Q&A type thing, right? Like I'm talking MBA candidates, and it was awesome. Like, I mean, it was amazing. And most of these people are like just in a point in their life where they just want to learn more. Period, and they're just doing the super cool thing.
Oh,
anyway.
That's great, man.
Yeah. But God, what were we on? Why did I go down this road? Darn it.
AOL.
So yeah,
CDs?
AOL. Yeah. So I'm talking to them, and they said, "Tell me about how you got to where you're going." Right, and I said, and it kind of occurred to me. I'm like, I started my company in 1999. Since then, every technology that exists on the internet, except for the internet itself, has been invented in that time frame.
That's crazy. Isn't that insane?
And I was like, that means I have been working in this field during the birth of literally everything. Except for the like
you were there for MySpace.
Yeah,
you were
like
there.
It was crazy. Like I had I had every account that's ever existed, right?
Napster.
Like, oh yeah, man.
I'm just gonna start yelling out old things.
Yeah, ICQ, man, back in the backpack. Like, I mean, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I mean, it is absolutely nuts to think about that. And like, then, we talked about the AI thing.
Oh yeah.
And, that has all happened in the last 60 days, right? Like,
yeah,
so
so you think about that like, holy website crap. I sent you?
Oh my God. Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Which was great. It's called there's an AI for that.com. It is.
Why wouldn't that exist, right? What is that, Rule 34? Or is that only apply to porn?
Yeah, right. I'm only fucking irritated that I didn't think of it because I'm like, what a fucking easy, stupid idea and amazing at the same time.
And at some point somebody's like, holy shit, that domain is available.
Yeah. Why in the fuck has nobody thought of this? Like, what? What the fuck? Yeah. No, absolutely, man. And so No, what a great find, man. Thanks for sending that. That was,
like, because we're both into that shit. We'll sit there
crazy.
and play on chat or Dolly, and
oh man,
why not do it with dad jokes? And
it's funny. A group of us over email and a group I belong to here wrote essentially like 2 chapters of a book through Chat GPT in an email chain back and forth to each other, like a group.
Oh my God.
Chain. Like it was like people would take like the previous one and add to it. And like, it was crazy. Like, it was just funny. And I was like, this is just a bunch of dudes in an email chain over the course of a business day. Can you imagine if you like sat down with
and actually did it as a writing endeavor? Oh man.
Well, it's funny. I'm reading this thing right now on the Fadiman experiments from the 60s about he took 48 or something, I can't remember the number, people who had legitimate problems, like hardcore problems that they were faced with professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave them 100 mics of LSD.
Yeah.
And within like something like 48 hours, 98% of them were solved. And
there was only like 2 left over or something.
Yeah, but within a week, I think it was 4 days. And again, I'm just getting into this, so like I'm murdering the details, I'm sure. But within like a week, and I do want to say it was 4 days, the remaining problems were completely solved. And what I found interesting about it, and I definitely want to talk about this on a show sometime, but is that the data was compiled in a way like, we've seen this a million times. Like, you can't really do research on sort of the more esoteric activities of life, like taking LSD, right? Like, it's really difficult. Like, did you come up with that painting because of LSD, or was it just your time to come up with a great idea?
Was it lying half dormant in your consciousness or something?
Like, was it, what is it? It does correlation equals causality, like kind of thing. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. And so what he said was, we're going to come up with all these rules, and I'm reading about it now, so I don't know what all of them are, and I'd love to talk about this at a different time. But essentially, they were quantifiable, each one of them, right? Like, they were like, no, we need to know that this is a professional working in this field. They have every right to want to solve this problem. They get paid to solve.
And they weren't they all PhD?
Yeah, they were all like very smart, like very accomplished. And these were, and you had to have been working on it for like X number of months or more.
And be stuck. Definitively stuck.
So they went through all of these like vetting criteria. And, and it's funny and sad funny and sad in a couple ways, but one, funny that shit happened in the 60s, and and here we are in 2023, and it's like as more relevant than ever, right? But it only took us the entire time.
Well, and it's funny because like at that time, right, there was this anti-hippie pushback, like, let's return to conservatism, and it feels eerily similar. Like we've got all these new technologies coming out. We're starting to talk about psychedelics in a way we hadn't before. We're looking at research back from the 50s.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're like, oh shit, this was all quality. And now we're like, uh-oh, what do you mean that like the women can't get abortions? Like, I thought that was done.
I thought what do
you mean that like we don't have separation of church and state? What do you like? What do you mean, Christian nation?
Yeah, and he actually, I think one of the criteria for the inclusion criteria for the study was like, is this problem going to matter in 100,000 years? Nope. Fine, move on. like not. This isn't like
if you can't figure out the most efficient way to put peanut butter on bread, that's not.
But I love. But I guess the interesting part of where this is all going now is that you got all these fun AIs that are going to help us get like some answers to these things faster and faster, right? Like, I mean, we're in a spot now where it's just going to get going real quick.
Right? I mean, at this point, it's the exponential curve. What is that technology used to?
That was Moore's law.
Moore's law, but we're blowing the curve off of that too.
We're fucking. This is like more in an exponent or in a logarithmic. More. Like this is like a crazy more. Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of cool, man. I mean, but so going into kind of what we wanted to chat about today, right?
Yeah,
Like these are all sort of like fancy sciencey things, right? That like, that are going to take years, if not decades, to really find what they're good at and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But back here on Earth in the here and now, you were part of a pretty cool conversation recently, or at least adjacent to.
I was at Maryland's House of Delegates hearings, and I was there for one thing, but you got to sit through everybody else's bill.
Right. That sounds exciting.
and the
like a colonoscopy, exciting.
Well, and then you never know who's coming in there.
Sure.
Every citizen gets to speak their mind if they so desire.
That must have been magical.
Some of the best and brightest, and some not so much.
Yeah. Some of the rest.
some of the ones that you're like, oh, you got out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's Tuesday and at noon, and it would only make sense that you would have time to do this.
and the nature of the bill, if we can start talking about it, was a single individual, and this is how our system works, proposed the bill to permanently make daylight savings time the regular time.
Yeah. No, breathtaking. Now,
breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the fun part to start out with.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is that guy? Like, I mean, seriously, like, what in God's
I can give you
earth?
A profile.
Yeah, I mean, what
we can look up him as the sponsor of the bill too.
Yeah, I mean, what the actual fuck is wrong with people that this is something that they are spending time on? I mean, actually funny. I kind of take that back actually, because like when we pried into it, it would seem fairly fairly
it's
important.
Surprisingly a healthcare issue at the end of the day.
And I need to really emphasize surprising.
Well, so let me preface this with this was the only dude in support of his own bill.
Naturally.
And his whole argument was nothing more than, I don't want to change my clocks anymore.
Which is the only logical answer to a guy proposing this in the first place.
I mean, look, he had free time on a Wednesday afternoon. He was in Annapolis. I don't know how this happened.
No, he was, absolutely. But you would expect that a very likely cause of a person fighting this fight is because they don't want to change their clocks. Like on the one hand, if you're hey, Matt, take some guesses about the guy who brought this up, I'd be like, it's a guy who doesn't want to change his
he was wearing a suit. I was surprised by that. But
wow.
I figured he'd still be in his jammies.
It's his wedding and funeral suit. Wedding, funeral, and proposed ludicrous bill in Congress.
I will tell you, I was not expecting this hearing to go that long. But the opposition was armed to the teeth with good research. And there is a national organization promoting going permanently to standard time.
I love everything about this argument. It's fantastic.
They only give you 2 minutes. I heard arguments for a good 30, 40 minutes.
Wow. Let's peel that back. I mean, let's lay a couple of them out there.
They were the articulate researched group, and surprisingly,
now hold on, just to be clear here, they're the group that advocates switching back and forth.
No, they do not want to switch back and forth.
Oh, so the group that was well researched is the don't switch back and forth.
Let's dump daylight savings time altogether.
Interesting. Okay.
And they said, they gave some history on it. And yes, you hear like, oh, pre-industrial, we wanted to, make sure that we were, our kids could get home and whatever it was. There was some things that, it didn't really seem that scientific. If a farmer wants to get up at the ass crack of dawn and start plowing, he's going to get up at the ass crack of dawn, whether that's 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
So, the
because everything just slides forward. Or backwards.
And it's arbitrary. The sun's going to come up when it comes up. We picked the time around when the middle of the day was and the middle of the night was. great. You got 12 hours on each side based on, how our planet rotates around the sun and how it tilts. That's how long day is and how long night is. And it seems completely reasonable to keep it like that. Now, this research group started going into the science and health implications of switching to daylight savings time, even just the one season on, one season off kind of thing. And I was like, holy crap. I knew about the red light exposure, and if you're not outside, because we've talked about red light therapy, and basically we're mimicking that same spectrum that comes out of the sun. But a lot of this was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that.
Well, and the thing that kind of thing makes me wonder right away, and as crazy as this fucking adventure sounds, there are some things about it that are actually make sense, right? Like, for example, would we be so obsessed with red light as a modulator of other deleterious health conditions if it weren't for the fact that we were put into a deleterious health situation by the inclusion of this daft
all this, I mean, human beings can't get out of their own way. Like I've said this, and I think I've even said this to you. Most of the services I have at my office, if you were outside more,
you wouldn't need them.
I would cut boom, I take 3/4 of my office away.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the same thing with a lot of stuff, like a lot of this little toys, even a treadmill, right? Like you get that so you don't have to run around for hours. You could just,
which is crazy because you can literally go outside.
You can
knock
go
off
outside.
3 or 4 of my services.
Right.
I shouldn't be saying this.
I'm
a horrible businessman.
I'm gonna reach
you
the wrong
need to
number.
come into me. By the way, here's our discount code at redlighttherapy.com.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny. Like it does beg the question, like, are we fucked up because we're fucked up, or are we fucked up because we made ourselves fucked up naturally? Now, if I'm just putting on my devil's advocate hat here and super hippie hat at the same time, I would say, I think I'd say, hey, we have evolved with a deep rooted circadian connection to the world itself.
We are tied to the earth, whether you're wearing a grass skirt and singing Kumbaya in a forest smoking a joint,
right,
or whether you're on Wall Street trying to fuck the little guy.
Correct. We are all connected.
You're all on this rock.
Yeah, and well, I mean, not only are we on the rock, but we are all interconnected. Now, you can go a whole bunch of different ways on this one, right? Like you can kind of jump into the universal mind kind of thing, that our brains are just antennas to a universal consciousness.
Very Jungian.
Yeah. You can also say that we're part of a recycling energy that kind of just ebbs and flows. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but the reality is, whatever you believe is the truth. We are connected, whether we like it or fucking not, right, to this planet.
And that is so counterintuitive to the American individualism model.
Fuck sure.
And people will die on that hill, and it's like, bro, you drove here on a road.
Yeah, right.
We wouldn't have that if not everybody was using it.
Right. And that's just if you look back, it's funny, you look back on things like the sperm whale oil lamp, right?
Oh, ambergris.
And all of a sudden, their major advertising campaign was light a house for a penny. It was super. It was playing off of people's being like, this is a luxury to be able to put light in your house, but we're going to give it to you for cheap. Anybody can afford this, right? So since we started doing this shtick, we have lived on the sense that marketing is the fucking way to make it better, right?
It is.
I mean, but so I don't know, is it now? Look, I don't give a flying fuck about daylight savings. I'm perfectly happy.
I was surprised people were ready to die on that hill.
It's crazy. I love it though. So like, let's talk about some of the specific health things that they were sort of pushing up against.
Because they did make some good arguments.
So what? Lay the first one out, because I got a couple that I found as well.
So
that
I think we should save the big gun for later. But they actually pointed to an increase in auto accidents.
Right, and
right off the bat.
I had heard that like years ago. I always assumed it was urban legend, to be honest with you. I mean, this is one of those facts that did make it into sort of the cultural shared,
the nebulous of
right.
the things that we would be come across. Yeah.
And so I really honestly chalk that up to urban legend. So they're saying that auto accidents actually went up.
They actually go up, and it does it every season when we spring ahead.
It's crazy.
Like clockwork. Now,
I know that seasonal affective disorder and depression and all this go skyrocket through the roof. And
that was their number one cause, is what they said, for SAD, seasonal acquired depression. Was the number one reason was that lack of exposure to the red light in the early morning hours.
So that's the urban legend that I was just about to say.
Yeah.
I always thought it was an urban legend, that it was because you and I are both in the Northeast. There's diminished sunlight, even if it weren't for the time.
Totally.
And
that's true too. And one of the delegates brought that up. Well, what about people in, outside, say not necessarily all the way up in the poles, but up at higher altitudes or lower altitudes, longitudes, or lower latitudes where they're getting less sun. Yes. Guess what? They consistently report lower levels of energy, more depression, more diseases. And, one of the experts gave this perfect example. Why do you think everyone retires near the equator?
Right.
Less change.
Yeah. Less change. And actually, it's funny because, we're really the only country that does,
and that was brought up too. And failed experiments. Russia tried it for 2 years.
Okay.
They couldn't keep up with the depression.
No.
They were like, oh, crap, everyone's like sadder.
Right.
And they noticed a rise in, that's the big gun one. Should we just mention it?
Yeah, let's.
Because it's bonkers. They noticed a rise in cancer.
Which I think is absolutely crazy, because you kind of, and that actually, what scares the shit out of me about that fact is that we still constantly discount the environmental contribution to cancer. And I know that's it's not universally true.
And we're not even talking about a train dumping, with vinyl chloride in the Ohio River. We're talking about hey, you didn't get enough light.
No,
You're
I know,
a fucking houseplant.
Every time exactly. Every time a celebrity gets cancer or somebody in their family gets cancer, you feel like the first PSA they do is stop leaving your water bottles in the car to heat up.
Yeah, that's one form, but
I mean, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, can we, what the fuck? Have you not?
And that's valid, but
no, it's not that it's invalid. But it's we hear the same fucking drum every single time, right?
Yeah.
It's never different. But the grain of sand in that is true is the fact that look, there's shit all around us that we are just completely fucking ignoring. And that's hard enough to manage. Now, let's just take the pro side here for a second, right? And I'll put on my tinfoil hat for this one, but if I was for this, my biggest point of arguing for it would be of all the things that we can't control, we can control this. Just stop doing it.
And that's the thing, right? Because why? All you have to do is go, we're not going to change the clock anymore.
I was coming back from Vegas last week for the trade show and sat next to a guy at the bar. We had a beer together. He was in big equipment sales. He said he just left 10,000 acre farm, some fucking massive, ridiculous.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's massive fucking farm. Every tractor and field piece of equipment that they have on their land has no cockpit. It literally, you can't drive it if you wanted to. There's no fucking steering wheel on it. And it's all controlled off of an iPad or a laptop.
Isn't that insane?
So here's the thing. You don't fucking
You can do that in the middle of the night. You can do it noon.
You don't fucking need the goddamn fucking connection to this or reduction in time. Like
you do not need to hear the rooster crow and get your boots on or anything.
No, let the fucking little AI bot feed the chickens, and you could run this fucking tractors on your iPhone. Like the fuck, And now look, not every farmer is going to be like that. I get that, but
and they're also not going to be able to afford that equipment. That is big aggro right there.
No, it's big aggro. But here's the thing, though. Like I got a friend who is he's a wealth advisor. He's got a client who's got a bunch of farms, or he bought a farm in his retirement. Now, he's not poor, right? He was not poor, but he was also not like a deca-billionaire, right? Like he wasn't like, big.
He wasn't like, I can't spend this quick enough. Yeah.
Right. Now, he went out and he bought GPS controlled equipment, the same. Now it's got cockpits from what I understand. And like, I haven't seen it, but it seems like it's regular tractors with GPS control on it, right? Similar problem to solve. And that wasn't like crazy expensive. But my point is if you have tractors out here that have no cockpits and are 100% automated, yes, today they might be the toys of the elite farmer class, but 10 years from now, it's everything, right? Like there's
exponential advancement of technology is going to knock that down to a consumer model. Hell. And
like even right now, you don't need to do crop dusting anymore because you got commercial or residential, or I'm sorry, hobbyist grade drones that can run around and, with a specially equipped camera on it, do the same thing, but better because they've got heat maps and all kinds of ways to look at the field that are different than how you would look at it. But even so, you're buzzing an electric drone around a field instead of a fucking biplane, with a fucking tank strapped to the back.
DDT.
Yeah, right. And you're just like napalming the place. I mean, come on.
Oh, these apples look great, man.
Yeah,
sure, they'll fucking kill you.
How fucking yellow these bananas are? Hey, don't touch the bananas without gloves. Just don't do that.
You got to wash them off first.
Yeah, with bleach. Like, you can't.
It's a cleansing process before they hit the store.
Well, it's funny. My kids used to make fun of me because before I let them eat grapes when they were kids, and they've literally made me stop doing this, so I can't anymore. But I would soak them for like 3 hours in a crazy salt and vinegar bath, like apple cider vinegar. Yeah, and like, you know what? It completely fucking kills whatever the fuck is on those things, right? And I was like, and then you rinse it off in a colander and you're good to go. But I would throw it in there. I'd mix it up in a giant salad bowl. I'd throw it in there, and then I'd go like take a couple conference calls or something. Then I'd come back and I'd rinse it off. It wasn't like a laborious.
Yeah, it wasn't like you were sitting there watching it.
Scrubbing each grape with the toothbrush.
But I know plenty of people, and they even have like, in the grocery store, they sell like a vegetable wash, which is mostly vinegar.
Right. No, it's basically vinegar. I mean, I essentially did the same thing as that wash. I just was obsessive about it. but I don't want some fucking biplane spraying shit on my field if the only thing but then again, you're still going to get it probably because, I mean, what all they're doing instead is saying this side of the field needs it, this side does not. So at least you're
like I was talking like to a smaller farmer. We go to like one place that does berry picking near us, right? And they've got, they got peach orchards, apple orchards. You go seasonally for different things. And even there, they were like, hey, look, do you spray this? Look, we only spray this and we follow these guidelines, and no, we're not organic, but
right.
And it was a good enough compromise for me and my wife. It's like, look, well, we're going to wash these off before we start eating them, but
there's so much of this stuff is actually like tough to really wrap my head around with, because on the one side, the crazy, guy in me is like, fuck you, it's organic, or fuck off, and like all this stuff, but on the other side, you have to kind of skate a line too. It's like, and not that, I mean, this is like, look, the human bias is a magnificent creature.
Oh, it's huge.
I can spin all kinds of webs here, man. But what I'm saying is, like, when I look at like it, I'm like, all right, like grapes, for example, right? Like they're soft and fleshy. And in my mind, and I know there's science behind this part of it, but like the fleshier things will soak it in faster and sort of keep it longer, right? So like, whereas harder things like nuts or something that's got like a hard shell, a lot less
Yeah, even like things like avocados,
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
things that are covered in a watertight
and
seal.
you said bananas. Those are thicker too, generally.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know somebody from Guatemala whose family worked in the banana business for a long time, and she said,
Oh, she's part of the Banana Republic.
yeah, she said there was these giant warehouses, and like they had to be picked super green, and they'd throw this chemical on it and whatever, so that they had it down
Ethylene
to
oxide or something like that.
Yeah, they had an exact science. Like they're like, if we get it on a plane at 12:01. We could have it in a Kroger by 11 o'clock in the morning, and that's right when it's going to turn yellow.
Did I tell you about? Speaking of bananas, did I tell you? I think it was like not George Zimmerman. Oh shit, that's the wrong Andrew Zimmerman, the bizarre foods guy, or Anthony Bourdain. He went to India, right? And he's walking through a farmer's market kind of thing, right? There's all these people selling everything, and goes down one lane. It's all fucking different varieties of bananas. And everyone's buying like there's little red ones and big green ones, you know, plantains and all this shit. And then there's a pile of ones that look like the freaking Chiquita bananas. And there's just some dude sitting there smoking a cigarette, reading the newspaper. No one's fucking talking to him. And they go, why is this guy not selling anything? He goes, oh, he sells the ones you guys like in America. They taste like shit. It's like, yeah, of course, that sounds like us. We would pick the crappiest variety of banana.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you look around, like we have the crappiest potato variety. Like we've got, we've got the crappiest carrot.
Peru's got 400 varieties of potatoes.
You know, when you go down to Mexico, it's funny. Like Mexico's got this weird monocropping rule that you can't do it. Really, like I mean, it's very like
that seems reasonable.
Well, so what's interesting about it is they use crop diversity to be their pesticide, so they will use complementary.
That sounds reasonable too.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like this, so they'll use like, hey, we know this one brings this bug, which actually eats this bug, so we'll plant some of this too. You know, like, and it's, I don't know how perfect the science is, but I do know that this has been going on since Aztec time. So there's got to be some fucking.
I think somebody figured it out a long time ago, and you don't need to fuck with it.
Which is why it's funny because they for a while, and I wish I could remember where I found this. For a while, imports of American corn tortillas were banned in Mexico because
I don't blame them,
because they were like, yeah, whatever the fuck they're doing over there.
I need to get back down to Mexico.
Yeah, like
because I'm sure, like there's a tortilla by my office. Wow, how white can I be when I say that?
Super.
But basically, you know, they'll sell you tacos, but they sell kilos of tortillas, and I'm like,
who needs a kilo of tortillas?
Well, you know, it's a stack.
I know,
it's you know about the size you get for, you know, if you go to the grocery store.
Kilo of cocaine. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's a kilo of whatever.
Yeah.
but
hey, you know the kilo of cocaine. Come on, remember that night in Florida one time?
The kilo of cocaine.
Yeah.
We're wandering, but I mean, I was like, these are the best goddamn tortillas I've ever had. And it's probably made with shitty American corn, but because they were freshly made and all that stuff, they were amazing. Yeah. I can't imagine how much better a taco or you know, the tortilla itself tastes in Mexico. Like I mean, it's probably
amazing. Yeah,
I got to get back down there.
But I think there's a lot of things like this that we're just kind of dumb, and just pulling it back to the daylight savings time thing, right?
Yeah,
like that's a prime example, right? Like we invented this.
Somebody figured out what midday and midnight was a long, long time ago, and it didn't need to be fucked with.
It just didn't need to be fucked with. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we invented this problem. This was a solution in search of a problem, right? And as it turns out, it's now a lot of problems in search of we
know better. We're going to control nature.
Yeah. But it is funny because I think this is what we're really bad at as a species, right? Like I think that there was absolutely, I got to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? We created a batshit system that defies the human condition and everything we know to be true about the world.
It's an insult to Mother Nature.
Yeah, we literally fucking, you know, took Mother Nature, spat in her face and said, We
Fuck
fucking
you.
know.
We're getting up before the sun.
I know you've been at this for 4 billion years. We've been at it for 100,000 years. Fuck you. I got this. You know, like
we only started fucking with it in the last 5 or 6,000.
Yeah, I'm like, so who the fuck you think you are? Yeah, no, exactly, right? Like, and here we are. Now, that being said, I have to assume, for purposes of this conversation and my own sanity, that at some point there was some, albeit possibly flawed, real logic behind making that decision. Like, we did something that should never have been done. I assume we only were able to do that with valid cause, right? Like, at one point.
I think
Is that optimistic?
I'm more jaded than you are. I'm like, we're fucking idiots.
No, but okay, so let's talk.
There was
back.
some money exchanging hands.
Walk it
And
back
somebody
to
was
that
like,
time. We'll
I
walk
want
it back
this.
to that time.
Why? Because I can give you money.
Right. So so I'm curious, do you think, well, of course there was money. I mean, the whole reason we did it in the first place was tied to essentially the commerce of agriculture, right? Like, I mean, that was more or less the only reason, right? Like, so whoever was in charge of those lobbies,
Yeah.
obviously I think would be happy about that. But where I'm saying we were bad is this. Let's just assume for purposes of this conversation that there was a valid reason for it. Okay.
Okay.
Right. That was then, right? That was a long time ago. Now, when we know that we're looking at farm vehicles, which are the impetus of this in the first place, have
obsolete.
Well, the underlying assumption here,
self-propelled ones have replaced them. Let's say
the underlying assumption here is that humans have to actually be the farmers. If that assumption has now been challenged by something that is legitimate and forecastably affordable, do we still need to hold on to this ridiculous thing? Like, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you know, it's like, look, if you can press a button on a screen at a McDonald's and get your food, does it matter whether or not that farmer is lacing up his boots at the crack of dawn and walking out? If the machine can do it as efficiently.
Well, moreover, let's talk about that. Who the fuck wants to time their day to get up at the crack of dawn, even if you're good at it? Like, even if it's fine with you,
and even if you enjoy it,
and even if you enjoy it, do you want to be bound to that forever? Like, you know, do you want that to be like the only thing that's real?
You know, put a little garden in your backyard.
Right. But hey, listen, I would look, I mean, candidly, if I knew that I had a robot workforce to run my fields, I think there's something incredibly raw and primal about being a farmer. And I'm really attracted to that. I think it's a very cool.
It sounds very masculine in certain ways.
So I can see what you're saying there, and I absolutely agree with you.
Like, you're out there just working the land.
Right. But what I would add to that, and I think where I was coming from, was it feels as human as it gets. Like,
I'm making my food.
Masculine energy, feminine energy notwithstanding.
Okay.
It's like, it's just literally at the very core of being a human being. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just cool. That part is very cool. But I just don't need that to happen at 5. Like, can we make that happen like a little bit later in the day?
Can I go out there for 10 for like a half an hour and be like, yeah, this looks good.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, and listen, I'm, you know, if my grandparents were alive right now, my grandfather would absolutely be fucking shaking his head at me.
You lazy piece of crap.
You lazy piece of shit. Yeah. Like, you unbelievable piece of human garbage. Like,
you can't even fix the tractor when it breaks. You know, what are you doing?
Well, that's another thing. Did you hear? I don't know if I don't know why I follow this, but I find it fascinating. John Deere just lost a class action lawsuit about now.
Oh, yes. Yeah. They lost it in New York State, right?
No, they lost it nationally.
It's national now.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's funny because I had read that article, and it's funny. I'm a big believer that the universe has got a.
Well, they're saying that's going to go for everything else now too, iPhones and.
Yeah, that's certainly where people would think
want it to go. Yeah,
I don't really know that it will necessarily, but I can see it.
And this is a right to repair lawsuit,
correct? Right. And so, like, what was interesting about this, and this is why I think it's funny. The universe has a very funny sense of humor. Like, I read this article because I've had this percolating interest in technology my whole life. Okay. Like it's what I do for a living. It's what I'm passionate about. But where I find technology most interesting, it's okay if I have a conversation about tech with a bunch of other tech guys. You know, if I'm in a meeting with a person who runs a tech company and she tells me some cool shit that they're doing, and I talk to her with like this crazy, like passion about technology, that makes sense to me because she runs a technology company. Like no,
it makes
no
sense.
fucking,
Yeah.
no set. But when you can touch a technology to the everyday human who's not in that position, who doesn't run a tech company, and it impacts them in a meaningful way, I light the fuck up because that is just like super interesting to me. And when I see bananas cutting edge technology being applied to farmers, which is philosophically about the least technology savvy group you could possibly imagine. In fact, it's probably the butt of jokes.
You know what? I hate to say that. Like, you know, the agricultural degrees that are out there, I mean, they're very science based now.
Well, so now
I'm
they are.
assuming the technology. Oh no, but back in the day, it's here's my shovel. Let's go.
Well, yeah, and so for years since the agricultural revolution happened, 11, 12,000 years ago, something like that. Like it's been a minute, right? Like you know, like we've been
farming for a little while.
Yeah, we've been farming for a bit. So, like this is central to the evolution of our species. Like we would never have been where we are if it weren't for farming. Like this is like goes back to almost square one.
Yeah, we'd be running around picking stuff up and killing things.
Right. So my point is that when we have technology that have come that far down the road that we're basically doing that, like I think we have to basically pause and say, look, whatever we're talking about here, folks, we've got to invent a new set of yardsticks to measure this stuff because honestly, why can't we? You know what? You know, the only reason we probably will never change daylight savings time is because those same fucking representatives are just too lazy to sign the fucking bill to do it. They're like, listen, guys, twice a year, set your fucking clocks and just shut your fucking mouth. Like, look, do we really have to waste our time on this? Can we please just move the fuck on?
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't matter how many health studies they came out with, because if you look at the list of things, it is not inconsequential. We talked about car accidents and cancer. We touched on it, but like depression, suicidal tendencies, I mean, all mental health things, big fucking nuclear bombs when it comes to fucking daylight savings time.
It's insane to me because like, you know, all of these things by not like 1 hour. 1 hour is what we're talking about. Just that little shift, and we're that sensitive to it. Whether or not we live in the city or we've surrounded ourselves with nature, you know, you're not immune to it. That 1 little hour.
And so like, look, I'm not going to go to Annapolis and, you know, champion this cause because quite frankly, I don't care.
Well, you know, it looks like federally daylight savings time is going away, correct? So
is it really? I don't even,
I think so. I think we got 1 more.
Oh, and then it's out the door.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I didn't know that part, but like,
I thought that was like some weird.
So let's just say it does. Like, our lives aren't going to change materially at all.
No,
but I think that the fun takeaway of this whole thing has been, we do kind of live our lives with these underlying assumptions, right? Like they really are all around us. And sometimes you don't even think to question the underlying assumptions themselves. And this guy came out and said, hey, look, what, any reason we got to keep with this?
Oh, shit. They wanted to make, the U.S. Senate approves bill to make the daylight savings time permanent. Ugh.
So it would stay at that time, or the switching would stay?
You would stay daylight savings time.
Forever?
Starting permanently in 2023. I don't know if it made it through the House.
So wait.
The Senate approved the measure. The House
so does that just mean
pass the bill?
So does that mean we just slide back? We just don't ever go back to
we never fall back, but there's health issues with doing that too, and it almost seems like the government is like intentionally trying to keep us depressed, unhealthy.
On what plane of existence does that not make perfect sense to you?
I mean, we're easier to govern, and certainly we're not intelligent enough to see through that.
Do you mind if I put on my conspiracy hat for 5 seconds?
I mean, I have
Tom's like, I have it tattooed to my face.
Mine doesn't come off. It's permanent.
So look, psychedelics, cannabis, fucking red light therapy, any dumb thing that we talk about on the show, all of that is way cheaper, if not free, compared to pharmaceuticals. There is a very, very tangible reason to keep us fucked up. And so I'd like to believe that the companies of the world are not that fucking blatantly.
I don't know, but like I will say, I can't tell, and this is not a conspiracy thing. I can't tell when that politician is just as dumb as they look.
Yeah.
Or if they've literally just are so evil that they will allow people to die over money.
Well, they're not people. They're rows on an Excel spreadsheet. So they're not really people, right? Like, I mean, row 18 isn't.
But corporations are. Sorry.
No. But corporations are living things, so they deserve all the rights. Yeah, sure.
And if I kill everyone in the corporation, that's just one murder, right?
Right. Right.
Here's there's going to be a knock on this door one day when we record, and I'm just going to get hauled off.
I know we need things. Let's just get real crazy for a second. I know we need things like rules around like time zones, right? Like we need somebody above us.
But even the time zones make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, when it's this time here, the sun has been up this amount of time for the day.
No, it makes sense. But what I'm saying is, like, I understand that there needs to be smarter people than the average bloke out there to like tell us that this is a time zone. Like, this is like, I get that.
And they do that, but the government decides to do whatever the F it wants anyway.
No, I get it. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I do think though that what we're going to find is that the world is moving into a spot where local authority is going to start to sort of be more influential, because like some people, like, look, what says that a town or a county in the middle of a place that has to observe daylight savings time can't be like, you know what?
Well, we do have states that have done it. None of the U.S. territories do it. Most of the rest of the world doesn't do it.
Yeah, but they don't do it. They don't not do it because they're U.S. territory, going against the system. They don't do it because culturally
they never did. Yeah. No, and you're right. And there's certain states, I think Arizona, there's a bunch, and then there was a bunch that were voting not to do it. We're not going to change the clock anymore.
Yeah, but I think that that's going to be the right answer, right? Like, there's going to be some states that say we don't believe that women should have an abortion.
I feel like at this point it's going to almost be like weed, where it's like, all right, everybody else is doing it. Let's, it's like, all right, okay, so Massachusetts did it. They were worried about higher crime and more car accidents, and none of that happened.
No,
okay. Let's all give it a try.
Yeah, no, none of that happened.
None of that happened anywhere. I mean, that was the big scare. That was the big scare. All this gateway drug talk, all this, so.
Oh, well, what about the Portugal when it went everything legal, and they're like, oh, Portugal is going to be a fucking cesspool.
It's going to be people like, dying in the street with heroin, and they're like, no, actually, use went down.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Oh, by the way, all those people going to jail, none of them are there now.
None of them are there. There's no overdoses. We're not plugging up the court system.
Not to sound like crazy here, but like, I have thought about that before, right? Like, our economy seems to be ever so fragile, right? Like, it seems like almost anything could topple
even
us, right?
More so now than before.
Right. So here's my question. And I think this is valid, although it sounds horrible as a human being to say, but like, prisons, as corrupt as they are and as stacked as the system is against minorities, against, socioeconomic differences, I mean, we have all kinds of problems in that system. But what I'm wondering is like, if you did a Portugal thing, right? Like a lot of those imbalances are centered around drugs.
Drugs,
right? Like,
absolutely. Non-violent offenses that normally include drugs.
Right. And as you dance around that ecosystem, cocaine, heroin, like you kind of don't really want to be caught with that, right? Like that, like shit is bad for you if you get caught with like a bunch of heroin on you, right? No bueno for you. Portugal, you could go down to a store and buy heroin. You could also get a needle exchange at the same place and enlist yourself in rehab and see a drug counselor about questions you might have about responsible use, or see a counselor about cessation of use. Like you've got all kinds of options at the same exact location. And that is where I think the rational thought comes out. Like this is,
and I'm sure their overdose rates fell too.
I don't quote me on this, but I'm almost positive that they were like all but eliminated, because there's really no reason. Like, I mean, it's the same thing with when medical came to Maryland, right? One of the best parts for me about it was like, I don't care if it was double the cost of street weed. I now could walk in and get exactly what I'm fucking looking for. I have a COA on record.
It's clean. You know what's in it.
Right. Like I have no question of its provenance. I have no question of its chemical constitution. I have no questions about this at all. Like nothing, not a single thing. If you, who are a very good friend of mine, were to hand me a bag of weed and I didn't know where it came from, I would not have that same level of confidence.
That's all right. It would probably just be oregano anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, not that I don't trust your choice in weed, but you're not me. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, and that risk tolerance in that degree. Like, well, do I know this guy well enough to be buying weed from him? So actually, I was out at that trade show, and there's a company that I am really working hard to get a partnership with right now, but they've got a Party Responsibly line coming out.
Wow,
it's fucking awesome! Like I literally cannot wait to help this company take off. A couple cool products, one of which is a nail polish that girls can put on.
Oh, I've seen articles on this.
And they just dip their finger into the drink, and if the nail polish turns one color, it's got fentanyl in it. And if it doesn't, I mean, it's fucking about the coolest fucking technology.
That's amazing. And I feel like I hope it's to market before my daughter goes to college kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, fuck men.
No, I mean,
that's fucked up.
But that's sort of, in that example, you're 100% right. But here, let me show you an example that isn't really a fuck man conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, just don't be assholes.
Fentanyl. I have a close friend who, is in his 60s, is heavily involved in a underground lifestyle in New York City. Right. So,
okay.
Very avant-garde, very artsy. He is a recognized human canvas.
Yeah.
So he gets used as a canvas at high-end, very private parties where there is all kinds of things going on. And it's super, super like hush hush and like very hard to figure out, but he makes a very good living doing this. And but as a result knows a bunch of people that are very responsible, but still in sort of that alternative lifestyle thing. Maybe it's clubs, maybe it's private parties like these, but like, you know, when you are introducing drugs like cocaine, he had two people that he was very good friends with die in the same day. Jeez. One in San Francisco, one in New York. Both of them were accidental fentanyl overdoses. Now, these are all people in their 60s. They didn't die of a heart attack. Like, it's not like they blew a fucking valve, while they were, sitting around aging, right? Like, this wasn't one of those situations. And when I told this story to my kids, I was like, look, here's the thing. These people have been in a lifestyle for decades. like there's no story you can pull. There's no wool you can pull over these people's eyes, right? Like they are absolute fucking professionals at what they do. And it slipped through their defenses and ultimately killed them. I am not fucking around when it comes to people I love, my friends, my family, you know what I mean? So when I heard about this, I was like, holy fucking shit, are you serious? So that's one of them. There's a test strip that looks like those things you use to test the water in your hot tub or your pool.
Yeah.
Like you just dip it in and it tests for like 3 or 4 things. And I'm like, I want to buy a carton of these things and send my son and daughter with these to college and be like, you take however many drinks you think you're going to have that night, multiply that by the number of friends you're going out with and grab that out of this fucking thing and just hold on to this all night long. Just fucking test everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care. Look, my preference is you don't do snort lines of cocaine at a club, but if you do,
this is the safer way to do it. Yeah.
Do it fucking here or promise me right now you will not do it.
Yeah. When they talk about harm reduction, reagent kits are super cheap, but they're not exactly something you're going to be able to whip out at a party or a club.
Listen, I just candidly, I have done cocaine in my life. And one thing that I always was insistent on is that I was not sharing any kind of delivery mechanism for my nose, because with the vascular nature of a nose and all the ability to transmit disease from one person to another, I was like, of all the things I'm worried about,
you're gonna get STD from
I'm the fucking guy who's like, nope, gonna use my own thing. And
I brought my own straw.
Yeah, and they all fucking, every single person I've ever told this story to, or been, I mean, not told it to, but like been in Congress with at the time of this exchange, they laughed at me like incessantly, and I'm like, listen, laugh all you want, man. This is like a non-starter for me. This is not that important for me to not do this. You know, it's like in my mind, it was kind of like akin to like somebody asking you to like just have sex with a prostitute without a condom just because it's a Wednesday and you feel dangerous. I'd be like, nope, hard pass.
I'm gonna roll the dice tonight.
Yeah, nope. Like hard pass. Like, but you know what? Look, a healthy dose of fucking crazy when it comes to like your personal health,
keeps you alive a little longer.
Keeps you alive a bit longer, like, I mean, but yeah, so they sell testing kits of all different colors and sizes.
That's pretty cool, man.
And I'm really looking forward to selling it because like it's just crazy. But that's one of those things, like when we talk about all this crazy technology upgrades, there's nothing more central to health than avoiding toxicity.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't poison yourself. Yeah.
Right. Like, so like, when you talk about, we talk about all these crazy technologies, wearables and all this stuff that's like super hardcore science. How about just like, don't eat the shit that makes you sick? Like, let's just start with that. That's pretty fucking simple, but it's actually a relevant conversation now. I mean, fentanyl is a wacky drug. I can't imagine why people cut their drugs with this because it costs money. Like, just give me the cocaine without the fentanyl in it, and I'll buy more cocaine for me because I won't be dead.
Yeah, and, I think it's more like when they start mixing it because it's an opiate. They start mixing it with the heroin, and that's I'm going to give you a different hit. And I just man, I've seen so much stuff. Everybody should get Narcan training too. That's free.
I saw that the other day that it was free, and I was actually thinking about sponsoring like like an afternoon clinic or something like in a neighborhood.
It's not a bad idea. You can get the supplies free even in the city. I think there's an online training, and you listen to that, and they'll send you the kit.
Yeah, I don't think it's super hard, and I'm pretty sure that you can actually get grants and stuff to do it, hand it out, and like do the training and like, but I think
spread it around. Yeah,
it's just crazy because like, look, I'm very not afraid of drug use, both recreationally, experimentationally. Like, I'm okay with it, but like that comes with a huge asterisk. Like, I don't want it. It's not.
You don't want it done in a back alley.
You cannot do like the things that I do are so super calculated and structured that like it does not. it's not like I go to a club and bang out some rando drug, from a stranger, be like, hey, take this, you'll feel great. I'm like, oh, how about you fuck yourself?
What pill is that? Oh, it's a blue one.
You're like,
That sounds good.
Yeah, nope. Hard pass. Yeah, like I'm like, no, it's just crazy. That's why people are like, hey man, I'll smoke you up next time. I'm like, no, it's cool.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. No need. No, no need. Anyway, cool, man. Well, listen, I think closing words for me anyway. I think this guy was a lunatic, and I think it's fucking awesome that you got to see that. I'm super jealous.
I would have been home a couple hours earlier had I not. So
I'm so jealous that you got to be like, if I could take a day off of work and listen to that nut job present, I mean, come on. I mean,
I don't, it's funny because like the previous one was on an invasive blue catfish.
Sure, why not?
And I'm like, all right, this makes sense. Let's talk about healthcare and all this other stuff, and makes sense. Seems to be a theme.
When a guy like the catfish dude comes up, like, I mean, are people rolling their eyes, or are people like, oh,
no, like the delegates were kind of into that one.
Really?
They were like, oh, I've had snakehead.
Wow.
They're like, oh, then you're gonna love catfish. It was like, oh, cool. We can like just fish the hell out of them because they're not supposed to be here.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Fucking bash them against a rock. Fuck them.
Yeah, oh, man.
I was like,
no, that's funny.
But yeah, I don't want to do that anymore.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what have you been up to other than that? Anything fun?
Man, I'm in the middle of so much business education now.
Right. You're in that class. I love it.
I cannot even pick my head up, and I wish I took it 22 years ago before I ever set foot in a clinic.
You don't wish that.
I would have screwed around. I wouldn't have gotten anything out of it, but
no. You learned it at the right time, man.
I believe that too. Yeah, I do.
Come on. But I agree with what you're saying. The spirit of what you're saying is right. I mean, I think all of us, when you learn that you could have not pissed away $100,000 of nonsense at some point.
I used to say I walked through the backyard and like a cartoon when they have rakes all over the place. Yeah. I stepped on every one of those motherfucking rakes and got split right in the jaw. You know, what are you getting into, man?
I am quadrupling down on brain science research right now. I'm
fun.
This book is in kind of like fever pitch mode now. And I'm about to go into an official interview cycle with people.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like a real, like we've got the formula worked out now, and I want to like start doing it. So if you know anybody who I can talk to for that, but it was basically like, a version. You were on one of the sample ones, right? Yeah. I kind of got it dialed in a lot more now, and the science behind this stuff. When this is all out and done, I mean, we definitely will talk about this, but man,
yeah, awesome.
But the short story for now is the science behind this it's one of those things that we have had all of these answers for so long, but they've been presented non-linearly and no one has stitched them precisely together.
Yeah.
And the more I dive into this and the more we're like laying it out, the more I'm like, this actually is 100% unique. Like literally
no one's thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like nobody has done what we're doing right now. And it's getting like very interesting now. Like it's
fun.
So I'm work in progress, but I'm hoping by the end of this year that this project can find its termination.
That's awesome.
I'd like to wrap it up in this year, but yeah, doing it. My co-author, who is a great partner for this project, this kind of project. So
yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah, it's I just got to hang on through the process. Like it can be trying because it's like it's making no money, it's taking up nothing but time. Like it's like it's kind of one of those things where you're like, all right, I'm too busy today, but like. Trying to stay with it every day. Like, okay, I'm going to give it 10 minutes today. I'm going to give it 15 minutes today. Like, anything
you got.
Anything I got. Like, so, but anyway, cool, man. Well, I actually think I wish I really am going to be interested to see how this thing plays out, because like I laugh. I'm like, we could be having this conversation to our grandkids going like, you want to hear a fucking crazy story when we were kids?
We gave everybody cancer by messing with the clock. Like, what?
Yeah. Say what?
Grandpa, you're going nuts.
You guys are fucking crazy.
Grandpa's got dementia. No. Seriously, we fucked with the clock.
Like,
now we all got cancer.
Yeah, that's fucking great. Yeah. Oh, man. All right, man.
All right,
You
man.
have a good one.
You too.
All
right, bye.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.